It was the final watch of the night. The city was asleep, but tonight was different. The sky was draped in clouds so thick and heavy that even the starlight could not pierce through. People often say these gray, clouded nights bring sadness, but tonight, the sky was guarding a secret. On the very edge of the city, where the cobblestone streets were slick with mist and the yellow street lamps stood like lonely sentinels, sat a small, ancient shop. It was a bookstore called the House of Silent Words. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of old parchment and the sweet, earthy smell of history. Every book on these shelves held a world of its own, waiting for a heartbeat to bring it to life. Behind the counter sat an old man named Rehmat. His eyes held the wisdom of centuries, and his fingers were stained with the ink of 1,000 tallies. Tonight, he wasn't reading. He was simply staring out the window at the heavy, rolling clouds. A soft smile played on his lips, a smile known only to those who have learned to speak the language of the night. Rehmat knew that when the clouds become this heavy, the sky isn't hiding the stars, it is showing us its own depth. Outside, a young woman named Alizeh walked alone. To the world, Alizeh was a dreamer, perhaps even a bit lost. People wondered why anyone would walk through the gloom of such a night. But Alizeh didn't see gloom. She saw a sanctuary. In her hand, she clutched a leather journal filled with her unwritten dreams that felt more real in the shadows than they did in the sun. As she passed the bookstore, she saw a faint golden glow through the glass. She had never seen the shop open this late. Something pulled at her soul, a silent whisper that only the heart can hear. She pushed open the heavy wooden door. The scent of tea, an ancient paper greeted her. Rehmat looked up, his mysterious smile widening. "You recognize the secrets of these nights too, don't you, child?" he asked softly. Alizeh paused, mesmerized. "Secrets, Baba? What secrets?" Rehmat gestured to the window. "These clouds. They aren't just water and air. They are the veils of the universe. When they gather like this, they drop a curtain between the earth and the heavens. And behind that curtain, things appear that the daylight is too blind to see." He pulled a book from a shelf, its spine cracked and faded by time. "In this book lies a legend that only lives on nights like this. Beneath our feet, deep within the earth, there is a transparent city. It is a city made of the dreams that people were too afraid to chase, the hopes that never faded, even when they were forgotten." Alizeh's heart began to race. The transparent city, does it truly exist? "Every time the clouds cover the sky," Rehmat whispered, "the city sends up a single spark of pure light that enters the soul of someone who is brave enough to look for beauty in the dark. Your journal, Alizeh, it is full of sparks waiting for a flame." He told her to close her eyes. As the rain began to tap gently against the glass, a rhythmic, hypnotic sound, Alizeh felt a strange warmth spreading through her chest. It felt like a liquid light, cooling her mind and igniting her spirit. "Open your eyes," Rehmat said. The room looked the same, but Alizeh felt different. The glow drop had found its home. She realized that her dreams weren't just fantasies. They were blueprints for her future. She left the shop that night and wrote in her journal, "Tonight, the clouds were not a ceiling. They were a door. And through that door, I found the light I was looking for all along." From that night on, Alizeh became a creator of wonders. She wrote her books, she helped the lost, and she lived with a purpose that never flickered. Every time the cloudy season returned, she didn't see a gray sky, she saw the beauty of the night. And she remembered the old man in the bookstore who taught her that the darkest nights often hide the brightest truths. The light inside the bookstore seemed to pulse, matching the rhythm of the rain outside. Alizeh sat on a small stool, her journal resting on her lap, as Rehmat Baba walked toward the back of the shop where the shadows were deepest. "You see, Alizeh," he continued, his voice barely louder than the patter of the rain. "Most people spend their lives waiting for the sun to show them the path. But the sun only shows you what is already there. It is the cloudy season that forces you to build the path yourself. It creates a beautiful blindness." He reached for a small, silver compass on a shelf, but instead of needles, it had tiny glowing crystals inside. "This is a dream. It doesn't point north. It points toward the things we have buried deep inside us, because we thought they were too heavy for the daylight." He held it out to her. The crystals inside began to swirl in a slow, hypnotic circle, glowing with a soft, lavender light. "Tonight," Rehmat said, "the clouds have reached the perfect density. The atmosphere is heavy enough to hold the weight of a soul's transformation. In the natural dose of the universe, there is a moment every 100 years where the city above and the transparent city below align perfectly. We are standing in the center of that alignment right now." Alizeh looked out the window. The city she knew, the noisy streets of the UK, the busy horizons of the USA had completely vanished. In its place was a landscape of soft, glowing mist. The street lamps weren't just lights anymore. They were pillars of captured moonlight. "Is this a dream?" she whispered. "It is better than a dream," Rehmat replied. "It is a deep reality. Usually, our minds are too distracted by the noise of the day to see it. But the clouds have acted as a silencer. They have muted the world so you can finally hear the frequency of your own purpose." Suddenly, a low, resonant sound vibrated through the floorboards like a giant bell ringing deep underground. Rehmat smiled. "That is the heartbeat of the transparent city. It is calling to the glow drop inside you. It is asking you to recognize that your sensitivity, your cloudy season of the soul, is not a weakness. It is your greatest power." Alizeh felt a surge of energy. For years, she had felt too much. She felt the sadness of others, the weight of the world, the pressure of her own expectations. But here, in this sanctuary of books and mist, that weight felt like wings. The heaviness was actually the strength she needed to fly. "The night is beautiful," she realized aloud, "not because of what we see, but because of what we feel when we stop looking." Rehmat nodded, his eyes glowing with reflected light. "Go to the door, Alizeh. Don't look at the street. Look at the space between the raindrops." She walked to the heavy wooden door and pushed it open. The air was cool and smelled of ozone and ancient secrets. As she stepped out onto the sidewalk, she saw it. Between every drop of rain, there were tiny, microscopic threads of light connecting the clouds to the earth. The entire world was a web of energy, held together by the very clouds everyone else called gloomy. She reached out her hand, and as a raindrop passed through her fingers, it didn't just feel wet, it felt like a memory of joy. She turned back to thank Rehmat, but the bookstore was already fading into the silver mist. Only his voice remained, echoing in the cool night air. Remember, Alizeh, the silver veil is never a wall. It is always a bridge. Walk across it. Alizeh walked into the heart of the mist, her journal now glowing with a light of its own. She wasn't walking home, she was walking into her own legend. The cloudy season had finally made her nighthand, her life truly beautiful. As Alizeh walked deeper into the silver mist, she realized that the ground beneath her feet no longer felt like cold pavement. It felt like walking on a carpet of moss and stardust. The cloudy season had completely transformed the city into a cathedral of shadows and light. She looked up, and for the first time, she didn't see the clouds as a barrier. She saw them as a canvas. The mist began to swirl, forming intricate patterns that looked like the maps of galaxies. Every time she took a breath, the mist responded, glowing a little brighter, as if the atmosphere itself was breathing with her. This was the human blueprint in its purest form, the moment where the observer and the universe become one. She opened her journal, but she didn't need a pen to write. As she thought of a word, it appeared on the page in shimmering silver ink. She wrote the word belonging. Immediately, the air around her began to hum. From the mist, small orbs of light began to emerge. These were the lost thoughts. Rehmat Baba had mentioned the ideas people had abandoned because they were too afraid to believe in them. One orb, a soft amber color, floated toward her. When it touched her hand, she felt a sudden rush of courage. It was the natural dose of 1,000 brave hearts, all condensed into a single spark. "You aren't alone," a voice whispered from the fog. It wasn't Rehmat Baba this time. It was the voice of the night itself. Every person who has ever looked at a cloudy sky and felt a sense of wonder is standing here with you. You are the guardian of the silver veil. Alizeh realized that her life in the bright world, the world of clocks, deadlines, and noise was just one layer of reality. This, the cloudy reality, was where the soul went to recharge. It was the architecture of the invisible. She reached the center of the city park, but the trees had turned into pillars of crystalline light. The lake was no longer water. It was a pool of liquid moonlight, perfectly still and infinitely deep. She stood at the edge and looked at her reflection. She didn't see the tired woman who had walked into the bookstore. She saw a being of light, draped in a cloak of silver mist. "The night is not beautiful because it is dark," she whispered to the water. "The night is beautiful because it allows the light inside us to finally be seen." As she spoke, the transparent city beneath her began to rise. Transparent spires of glass and light began to break through the surface of the lake, silent and magnificent. This was the moment of alignment. The world above and the world below were no longer separate. Alizeh stepped onto the water, her feet leaving ripples of gold. She wasn't afraid of sinking. In the cloudy season, gravity is ruled by faith, not physics. She walked toward the tallest spire, knowing that inside was the master blueprint, the record of everything that is, was, and could ever be. She understood now why she loved these nights. They were a reminder that the world is much larger than what we see with our eyes. The clouds were a gift. a sacred pause that allowed the universe to whisper its secrets to those who were quiet enough to listen. As the first hint of dawn began to turn the indigo sky into a pale violet, Alizeh felt the transparent city begin to settle back into the earth. The mist began to thin, and the glow drops returned to the clouds, but the light inside her stayed. She closed her journal, the silver ink now dry and permanent. She walked back toward her home as the city began to wake up. People were opening their umbrellas, grumbling about the gloomy weather. Alizeh just smiled. She knew the truth. She knew that behind those clouds, a magnificent city was waiting, and that every one of those people carried a spark of it inside them, waiting for the next cloudy season to set it free. The mist began to thin, not because it was disappearing, but because it had become a part of She stood on the threshold of her own home, the familiar wooden door feeling different under her touchlighter, as if the wood itself remembered being a tree in the silver forest. One last secret, the voice of the night whispered, now so faint it was like the rustle of silk. The clouds do not leave. They only change form. They become the steam from your morning tea, the breath you exhale in the cold, and the dreams that keep you warm when the world feels hard. Alizeh looked up one last time. The heavy silver ceiling of the sky was beginning to break into soft, golden fragments as the sun prepared to rise. But she didn't feel the usual rush of the morning's anxiety. The natural dose of the night had settled deep into her bones. She realized that the cloudy season wasn't a time of year, it was a state of mind. It was the ability to find beauty when the path is hidden. She walked inside and placed her journal on her bedside table. As she lay down, the heaviness of her blankets felt exactly like the embrace of the mist. Her room was quiet, but it was a living silence, filled with the echoes of Rehmat Baba's wisdom and the humming vibration of the transparent city. The city outside began to roar with the sound of engines and the chatter of people rushing to work. But inside Alizeh's sanctuary, time remained still. She closed her eyes, and behind her eyelids, she could still see the silver threads of light connecting everything in the universe. She wasn't falling asleep. She was descending into the final blueprint. The journey was complete. The story had done its work. The silver veil had served its purpose as a bridge, and now Alizeh was safe on the other side. She was no longer a seeker of light. She was the light itself, resting, recharging, and waiting for the next beautiful, cloudy night to return. The world went quiet. The stars, though invisible, stood guard, and the clouds, like a silent mother, watched over her as she drifted into the deepest, most beautiful sleep of her life. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your night. May you find deep peace and restful sleep. Wishing you the sweetest dreams. If you liked it, please like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.